Hey guys, I'm Doug.
And I'm Chelsey.
Chelsey is the executive director of the HunterSeven Foundation, which you guys may have seen a lot of really cool artwork and infographics floating around the internet about, and brought her in today to talk about what it is that HunterSeven actually does.
Yeah, so that's a broad question because I feel like, first of all, we don't turn our back on veterans. So I mean, you name it, we probably cover it. Our main focus though is education. We do a lot of education, a lot of research, and we do immediate needs.
Education on what?
So it started off as toxic exposures, but then after speaking with certain individuals like Dr. Free, and we realized that it's very holistic, and healthcare is more of a, it's not so linear. So I mean, like alcoholism, TBI, substance use, all of the above. So it all kind of plays into each other, but we focus mostly on medical issues in the post 9/11 veteran community.
So, and they're medical issues that stem from exposures, which is something I recently, of note, you guys were pretty involved in doing research for the burn pit stuff, right? I'm going to say stuff because I don't fully really understand like how you tie into the registry or like the current legislation that's on the Hill about burn pit. There
is 69 different bills about burn pits on the Hill right now, whether it's the Senate or the House. But here's
smells like pork.
I didn't want to say. I mean, I thought it smelled like JP8, but a lot of the bills that are up on legislation right now, they focus solely on presumptive conditions, and it's like, I get it. I like money. I'm also a disabled veteran, so I get it.
What is a presumptive condition?
So it's like automatically if you served within a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of days, like usually it's 1990 or after at like 17 different countries, and you have an issue with asthma or cancer, we're going to automatically give you money, which is good in some sense. It's absolutely 100% respectable. But when you're giving somebody $2,000 a month, 100% service-connected disabled for stage 4 cancer, that's not a victory. If you ask any survivor, any widow, how much money would it cost you to bring back your loved one? They'd be like, that's a stupid fucking question.
That is not what my ex-wife would say.
It's true though. And I mean, like, and it's even terrible to put a price on somebody's life like that. And so our whole thing is like, why the fuck are we...
You can say fuck on this. You can say fuck on this video.
So why are we doing this? Why are we just giving, oh, sorry, you have cancer, good game, slap on the ass, and then you give them money, and then they die 6 months later, like many of the veterans that I've seen? Why aren't we doing a better job in preventing these exposures, downrange? And then if we can't prevent them, why aren't we screening to improve healthcare?
Catching them earlier.
Catching them early on. Like colorectal cancer, it has a huge survivability rate if you catch it on stage 1, stage 2, and early stage 3. But like I mentioned before.
Is that the cancer you get from eating too much ass?
Is that, yes. And taking Motrin and ass. 2 biggest things that will completely wreck your rectum, no pun intended.
With a bigger focus on preventative medicine, like if you're starting to bring awareness to the fact that like, hey, by the way, toxic air supplies kill you, which we should know based on most of the developing world, right? With super high mortality rates based on pollution.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that we too are equally susceptible to that sort of death. The real question is, are we willing to spend pennies today to encourage people to adopt the appropriate protective gear in these environments? Or like, are we going to start seeing people deploying in mop gear for regular breathing?
So it's crazy. I was at SHOT Show and I ran into this guy and he's like, oh, there's something at Ops Corps. And I was like, oh, what's an Ops Corps?
They got the little mask.
The soda masks. Yeah. And I mean, so he sent me some right after
They look
COVID.
so goofy.
They do. And I'm going to send you the picture that I had because I wore it during fucking COVID when I was caring for patients and it worked great. But I looked like Bane. It was legit, and people were like, they thought they were hallucinating. But it works really well. But you're right. Who the fuck's gonna sit there? And like, I had a Green Beret actually comment on it. Was like, I'm not wearing that, it's gay. And I was like, I totally understand.
Well, it's weird because like I think it's stigma. Like that is 100% a stigma because if you look, special operations units all over the world won't go into a shoot house without some sort of like breather, like some kind of respiratory protection device, because they know that there's so many toxins in there. They're like, we just won't do it. No, dude, range 37 is like after 24 hours in the house. We're going to give you a stand down or whatever. You know, it's like, I mean, they have the stand downs. They test guys. They're taking preventative measures to make sure levels don't get too high, but they're still exposing guys to the same stuff. Like, they're cleaning the houses better. They're teaching guys to have better protocol, which is all good. But the reality is, that's just training stuff. When we start to go down range, we're deploying to 150 plus countries all over the world. And most of those places have terrible air conditions. It doesn't matter if you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, any developing nation in the world burns their trash.
100%.
And so
for heat too.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting here going, hey, we're being exposed to these things just walking down the street. And in addition to that, we're telling people to put a high value on doing physical fitness training while they're there, which is only increasing the amount of air that they're circulating through their lungs.
Why does nobody else understand that?
Well, I mean, you know, my guys just were in Niger, and they were in a place that was right by an open pit uranium mine, and they knew this. Luckily, Brian is well versed in this because he films all these things we do on functional medicine, and like they took protective caution. I mean, you guys took preventative measures. You guys like didn't train on super bad air days.
But I started a fucking air purifier company.
Yeah, and Brian started an air purifier company that you should definitely buy one of Brian's air purifiers. It's briansairpurifiers.com.
Don't lie to me. I would like to invest stock.
When you pack your Connex out to go on a trip, why are we not bringing air purifiers? Why are we not telling guys, hey, you know what? Like, I get it. You don't like to wear N95 masks because of COVID, but also if the air is yellow and the wind's blowing it up and you're walking around, why not just throw one on between buildings? You know, like,
they'll say it ruins your operational capability and your maneuvers. And I'm like, how many of you actually sit down and aim down a site? You just kind of like...
that's not true. Everybody's aiming down sites, but they're doing it like 0.1% of the time or less. And the reality is, I loved it when you were like, "Oh, Doug, do SF guys spend their time on a fob?" I'm like, "I'm wherever the green bean is, baby." Like, yes. SF guys do spend a significant amount of their time on a fob, whether it's a remote fob or you know a big one, doesn't matter. But we're still spending a significant portion of our time downrange in an area surrounded by a logistical network of host nation or developing nation imported labor that are doing things that are outside of what we usually see as like healthy practices in how they dispose of, you know, waste and so on and so forth. What is HunterSeven doing to combat all of this stuff? Like, you guys are doing awareness, but what are you doing in addition to that? Yeah,
so everybody, it seems like the VA is like, we need more research. And I'm like, okay, I'll do research, you know? So given that we're all a team of medical providers with advanced degrees and we all have experience in the military, it gives us more clout. We also publish internationally, you know, because our work is good work. And I say that in the most humble way possible, but, you know, we've been there, we've done that, we've lived it.
You don't have to be humble when you're good.
That's right. But so what we do is we try to find where the gap is missing. So like, if you think about it, everybody's like burn pits. No, okay, let's talk about your MOS. I was 68 Whiskey, Fox, right? So I was flying around on helicopters acting like I knew what to do with medicine. You were an 18 series. So our exposures are totally different, right? So you were hanging out with the green bean and you were going kicking down doors and, you know, blowing stuff up, you know?
Mostly eating foot bread and talking with people.
That's why you're at risk for GI.
My gut is healthy because of all the exposures.
That's probably, you know, you probably get a lot of the ADHD. But yeah, so I mean, like with me, I was rarely on a base, you know, and I wasn't too much on the ground except when we were moving patients. So my exposures are different in terms of like I was exposed to more JP8, more fumes, more sandstorms, that small particulate matter, whereas you're more exposed to, you know, certain things that relate to your operational environment or your MOS. So we looked into the trends in that. We said, okay, so if we know that there's an issue with symptomology, PT pass rate, why? What's going on? And so you should, I'll actually send you the study. We did 53 questions, and we looked at demographics pre, during, post, and we did this for Iraq and Afghanistan. And the findings were just insane in the comments. And it's like, I never thought about that. So what we're doing is we're building an entire network basis in a program that's going to change the lives of every single veteran who's served post 9/11. Like, we work very hard on that, very hard. And it's in software development because I can barely use a computer. So, you know.
But it's just a survey that everybody should be taking, or?
Well, right now the surveys are closed. So being that we're actual medical people, you know, we have to follow strict IRB protocols and, you know, HIPAA violations and sensitive information. I understand, and that's what makes our information so valuable. But yeah, we're gonna try to reinvent how healthcare is done in terms of veteran healthcare, because, you know, 25 to 27% of post 9/11 veterans utilize the VA, right? So you're missing 3/4 of post 9/11 veterans. And when you look at the average age of these deaths, you know, 40 years old, that's insane, and that's on the older side too, right? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to swap all that out and just find a better way to care for veterans.
Thanks, Chelsey, for coming in. What you guys are doing at HunterSeven is super important. The way that you guys interact between HunterSeven and Task Force Dagger, as far as like identifying the problem and then kind of giving people a solution to find like their own self-run healthcare through what Task Force Dagger provides. Where can people find more information about HunterSeven?
They can check out the Instagram at HunterSeven, spelled out SEVEN Foundation. We put out a lot of stuff on the daily about that, different topics and awareness campaigns, but also the website, www.hunter7, spelled out, .org. And check out the education portion and the heat map. It's very interactive, and it gives you all the resources that a veteran would need, or, you know, ask any questions that you may have. There's a lot of resources on there. It's good stuff.
Awesome. Link in the comments. Subscribe if you like. Follow Chelsey. She's smarter than I am.